Okay, so I decided just to put my old A string back on because the new A string, that kink was just about to bust. The winding was coming off. Now you don't get that very often, but you do want to check for that because these strings they cost like $45 a package. So if you get a bad string, you want to make sure you send that back and get something worth your money. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the D string. Now this is pretty high up in the peg box for me. You can see I've got 3 pegs on this side. You always want to make sure you're grabbing the correct peg. That's like half the battle. So in the beginning you may need to just follow your string up to the correct one. Again, I'm plucking and I'm keeping my hand in front of the strings. I pluck because I want to make sure I'm turning the right direction. Now I'm pulling the string out. It pops right out of the prongs. Another way that you can sort of tell it might be time to look at new strings is just like silver will tarnish over time and the metal turns black, the strings will start to turn dark over time as well. Their metal starts to tarnish, and you can kind of see. I was practicing a lot yesterday, and my fingertips were just black. I've got one really good groove here where you can see I was pulling that off as I was practicing. Also, if you want to take the time to really clean under your strings one at a time, this is the time to do it. So I'm in this D string, it's furthest back in the peg box, so I really want to make sure I can see the string come out the other side of the peg. And I like to wind it so that it's pretty clean. Okay, oops, I didn't leave myself enough room. This is a slightly longer instrument than a regular violin. It's technically a viola. It's a 14.5-inch body to accommodate the tone needed for the C string. All right, so now, because the strings are getting thicker, I'm going to use my pencil tip to snug that ball end underneath the prongs. I'm going to make sure I get in the right groove here. Still holding my tension. And starting to wind. Hand is always in front of the strings, just in case they decide they don't want to be on here. Pop. All right. Now time for the G. I was really excited about getting this 5-string fiddle. I guess I got it back in 2010. When I was young, I originally began playing viola, and when I finished my degree, it was on violin. And then I thought, hey, best of both worlds. I've absolutely loved this fiddle. It's a Maggini copy. It's got the double purfling, and it's just got a really warm tone, clear tone like a viola. Okay, I'm pulling my string. I don't feel any kinks. That's good. It was just the A string. Gonna poke the ball end through. Now you'll notice when I'm tuning up the instrument, I don't always use the tuner just because I can judge the pitch based on the other strings. If you're not to that point yet, no big deal. Just use your tone generator. Ooh, that tone sure sounds different than it did a minute ago. It was time to change my strings. Now I want to keep an eye as I go on my bridge. Bridges will tend to get pulled forward as you pull the strings, as you're tuning them and pulling the tension that way. Now you'll notice my bridge is a little bit leaning backwards. It's just kind of warped a bit over time, but we want to keep an eye on making sure it doesn't tip forward. the back portion of the bridge should come to a perpendicular angle to the top of the instrument. And if it starts to lean forward, that's when you have to get really brave and hold your fiddle like this against your belly and put your fingers on the bridge and then pull back a little bit, like just a little, because you could knock that sucker over so easy. But I haven't broken one yet. Not broken. I've totally pulled one over and had to set it back up again, but that's fine. I just haven't broken one. Okay, last string. Okay, get the C string. I'm just making a mess here. I'll get it later. So again, I'm not coming in through another string. I'm going a straight shot to the peg hole, making sure to push the string all the way through. And then I want to wind it. I'm going to show you this. I want to wind it so that where the string ends up is in line with where it will meet the nut. So you can see that I've got this string wound. The winding starts over here, but as I go along, it's further and further closer to this part of the nut. And I've done the same with my E string. I intentionally do that because if I have a string that, say, goes really crosswise in the peg box, it's gonna pull that peg out of tune very easily. So I'm just saving myself trouble down the line by making sure that I've got a straight shot from the nut to the peg, all the way through. Now, I mentioned earlier that I've done this a bajillion times. I have a studio party for my kids and my adults about once a year where I invite them over, we have some snacks, and we all change our strings. It's terrifying for everybody at first, especially this part where we go from no tension on the strings to having to tune it up. That's usually the most nerve-wracking part. But I think it's an important skill. It's your instrument. You got to know how to maintain it. That's important. But I don't recommend doing it by yourself at first. This is just, to kind of get your feet in the water. But if you can, have the buddy system. Do it with somebody first. There's my C. Okay, I've got a pitch match. That's good. I'm going to go ahead and tune the rest again. It's pretty good. All right, let's check that G string that was so false earlier. Let's see what it sounds like now. Better. Yeah, much better. It sounds a little tinny. That will go away after a few days of playing on these new strings, and then it will just sound like a beautiful brand new instrument. Best of luck, everyone. Let me know what questions you have. Bye.